Hey guys, and welcome back to Vlogmas Day 9. I know I'm filming this video a little bit later. I should normally have my Vlogmases up by this time of day, but there wasn't much to film, so I decided to sit down and do a tier ranking video of all the books I've read in 2022. I'm not going to go into depth with these books this video because I will be doing a yearly wrap up. Look forward to that, but I thought it'd be fun to rank it. I've seen it going around YouTube everywhere and I wanted to be a part of it. So I'm not going to do this in any particular order, but I will be doing the series together because it just makes the most sense. I also want to preface that the tiers that I'm using, I'm ranked from perfect to regrets. I have gotten those from Destiny, not word for word, but I've taken her idea of the tier book reading and put it into my own because they just made the most sense, and I didn't want to rank them by like 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. So we've got perfect, living, laughing, loving, you were mid, I miss who I was before reading this, regrets. So we'll see what happens. I thought it'd be an interesting way to rank them. Without further ado, let's get into the actual video. So I'm going to start off with the Inheritance Games series, and I'm also going to get up my Goodreads because I want to make sure I remember the rating of the book. Okay, so I rated the Inheritance Games 4 stars on Goodreads, and I did enjoy the book. I found at parts it drew out, which I found with the whole series. That's kind of what happened. They drew the book out at points, but I did love the concept of it. I thought it was so different, having puzzles and riddles, and yeah, it was just a very interesting series overall. I would put the first and second book into living, laughing, loving because they were both for me really good books. And then the third book, even though I believe I also gave that one a 4 stars, which I will just double check, I'm going to put it in you were mid. And I know, don't come for me, I just realized the book covers are not all the same, and I'm sorry that the book covers are cut off. I don't know how to fix that, so we're just gonna run with what we've got. But yeah, I just truly found the last of the series was like, it was wholesome to finish it and finally come to an end and kind of thing, but I really found it wasn't that good. So yeah, that's my ranking for the Inheritance Games. The next one on in the rows, I'm just kind of going that way, is The Silent Patient by Alex. I'm not gonna try and pronounce his last name. This book, 5 stars. I'm not a big thriller fan, but it was just so unique and so well written, and the curveball at the end of the book, did not see it coming. I was shitting my pants reading it, I will admit that. Like, I was literally on the edge of my seat the whole time I was reading it. But I find literally reading that book, it's as if you're watching a horror movie or a thriller movie, and the intense anxiety you're feeling is what you're feeling in a book. And I find that can be hard to portray in books because you're actually just reading the words. You're not necessarily seeing like the visualization of that book. So I've asked for The Maidens by him. It took me this long to want to read his second book because the first book scared the shit out of me, but 5 stars. So I'm gonna go into, I would say it's perfect. It was perfect. It had me in a chokehold the whole book. Okay, the next one is Reminders of Him, and if I'm correct, I gave this book a 5 stars. Yes, I gave this book a 5 stars. This book came out at the beginning of the year. If you're not familiar with it, it's one of her new releases, and I honestly, really wholesome. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I think it's because people can't really comprehend her writing style with some books. Her writing style is different. I know some people have called it like Wattpad writing, and the biggest thing I would say is like, even with It Ends With Us, which I read last year, I probably, if I read it again, I might even have given it a 4 star rather than a 5 star, but I like her writing. I enjoy her books. I don't expect crazy mind-blowing things from it, but I don't even know why I said that word, mind-blowing things from her books. Reminders of Him was just so wholesome. I loved it, so I'm gonna put it in living, laughing, and loving. So it just goes to show also with this tier rating that even though they are 5 star, it's not necessarily in my top tier. So I just want to clarify that. That's why I wanted to kind of do it like this rather than ranking by the out of 5 kind of thing. Then the next book is I'm Glad My Mum Died. Now with biographies, I did preface in my wrap up video that I rank my biographies by the writing style, not by the author's life, because you know, it's their life. I'm not going to rank their life. So I gave this book a 5 stars because Jeanette McCurdy's writing style is just excellent. and it was just so eye-opening, really. It was so eye-opening to see what it's like to be a child actor. You don't hear many stories about it, so to be able to get a perspective of it, and then let alone her perspective with her mother, was just a whole nother story. So if it's on your TBR or you're not sure whether or not to read it, I would highly, 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 highly recommend reading it. And I keep going in and out of focus, and that is going to go into Living, Laughing, Loving, only because it was just like perfect. Is like top tier, you know, like there's no flaws. Now the next book in my row is part of a series, the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I just started this series last month, and I have to wait till Christmas to get the rest of the series because I asked for it for Christmas. I rated this whole series, The Mistake and the Deal, 5 stars. Okay, I don't want anyone to come for me if you're a hockey romance girl or kind of into that kind of genre of romance. I have not read a lot. This is a new genre that I'm kind of jumping into, a new section of romance. I don't know how to describe it, but I truly loved this series. I thought it was just so good, so simple, yet just so good to read. Like, it's kind of, the best way to describe it, it's like if you wanted to watch a movie but you wanted to be able to do something else while you're watching the movie, so if you get distracted and you came back in, you kind of know exactly where you're at. This is the series for you. And I'm gonna put it in perfect because I ate it up, and I'm so mad that I cannot read the next one. So they are going in perfect. Do not judge me. Everyone has their own opinions, and I'm putting it in there. The next one on my list is The Way the Crawdads Sing. 5-star read. Phenomenal book. Could not recommend it more. Where the Crawdads Sing is by Delia Owens, I want to say, and this book was on my TBR for goodness knows how long. It took me a while to get into it because I hate when books are hyped up because it takes me 10 times longer to read it because I don't know what it's going to be like, and there's expectations around it now. But I've been really good at not having expectations going in, because one person's expectation or opinion on a book is going to be totally different to someone else's. But Where the Crawdads Sing, I would recommend. It's so good. It's very descriptive, but I love how descriptive it is. And for me, level of description in regards to the nature and where she's living in the swamp makes sense, because you need to understand the surroundings to be able to understand the rest of the book that follows. And yeah, perfect. Could not recommend it more. Then the next one, I'm not going to get into that one yet. I'm going to get this one out of the way because I feel like I'm going to get judged for it. But 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Yeah, I totally forgot I read this year, and kind of a little bit embarrassed to put it on my my reads for 2022, but I'm going to stand up for myself. I do not read it because of the smut, which is so weird to say. Because people were like, what, obviously you're reading for the smut? No, I loved the characters, okay? I enjoy reading about the characters. The best way to describe it, it's the kind of the same situation with the Off-Campus series. The characters just drew me in, and I really liked seeing their development, their characters blossom from something to another thing. And I've watched all the movies and I haven't read the series, so I'm going to finish the series next year, hopefully. But they are harder to read because they're longer. But I just love the development of Christian and Anna. Keep your opinions to yourself. I liked it, okay? So, however, I gave this book 4 stars. I think I would even like cut it back to 3, to be honest with you. Can I change my rating? Yes, I can. I'm gonna put it down to 3, only because it wasn't that like spectacular. It was just more the characters that I loved. But in comparison to, I guess, the Off-Campus series, which I rated 5 stars because I related them both, it's that the background information of the characters and like the plot, it was still very good. Whether 50 Shades of Grey, it was kind of like work, home, you know, smart, work, home, smart. It was kind of like expected, but I think it's also because I watched the movies. Like, it's like I know what's gonna happen. So I'm just gonna put you a mid, because it was mid. I wouldn't say I missed who I was before reading it, but it was just mid. Next one I'm gonna do is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. Now, I know when the Bridgerton series came out, the book series became quite popular as well, and I know there was a lot of controversy surrounding the author and her choices in writing and things like that, and I love the TV show. And I gave the book 5 stars when I read The Duke and I truly love Daphne and Simon. They're my favorite characters. I fell in love with the actor and actress. Okay, here's my issue with it, right? Is because I started with the TV show, I thought the book would be, you know, based on, like, season 1's based on Daphne and Simon. So book 1, you know, book 2, you know, you kind of get the point, right? But there was an epilogue, I believe it was in book 1 or book 2, can't remember now, and there was spoilers of things I have not read yet or watched yet, which is basically, I think, season 3, what happens in season 3. So I'm gonna put, even though I gave it a 5 stars, I'm gonna put it into regret, or no, that's a bit harsh. I'm gonna put it into I miss who I was before reading this. That's the best way to describe it, because it's not that I didn't like it. I gave it a 5 stars, I loved it. I know there's controversy surrounding it, but when I put that aside, I did enjoy the book. So without the controversial things part of the book, I'm going to take that out. And I also want to preface, one of the big controversial things was Daphne tried to get pregnant. That is a lot more emphasized in the book than the TV show. So yeah, there are very controversial things in the book that aren't necessarily brought up in the TV show or are kind of skimmed over. So I am going to put in that one because I don't agree with some of the things that are in the book. But if I do pull those things out, it is a good book, if that makes sense. I'm just trying not to draw away from controversial things in the book. But also the other thing is it's spoiled, because I'm so used to watching the TV show. I'm up to date with the TV show, I'm waiting for the next season, and so this book kind of spoiled it. So I've just chosen not to read the rest of the series. The next one I'm going to talk about is the ACTA series. I just finished A Court of Silver Flames yesterday. I rated this entire series a 5-star read. Couldn't speak more highly of it. Recommend it, especially if you're a beginner in fantasy. I was a beginner in fantasy, hadn't read that many fantasy books. It was just such a good series that you just got drawn into the plot line and drawn into the characters. I do know it's literally on my shelf there. I know the books are massive, but please don't let that deter you. I will say that I did, every time I read the books, besides A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Frost and Starlight, because of how short it was, I did have a book slump midway, but when I came back, I flew through the rest. I didn't stop once I came back. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's long and tedious, and you do probably need to take a break about it, or even read another book in tandem so you can take a break from the world. But it is so good that when you get to the end, you just want to pick up the next book straight away. And so I'm going to put this entire series, bar A Court of Frost and Starlight, into perfect. I gave the whole series A Court of Frost and Starlight 4 stars because the book was just kind of like I'd say a gap filler, but it was still really good to read, but it just wasn't anything crazy. So I'm going to put that one in newer mid, and I'm going to put A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Silver Flames into You Are Perfect, because you were so perfect and I couldn't recommend it more. Oh, A Court of Ruins and Ruin, whoopsies. Where's that? There. So the next book on my list is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I gave this book a 4 stars, and I would put it into Living, Laughing and Loving, because I know people were disappointed with it, but those are the people that walked into the book thinking that it was going to be something mind-blowing. She did preface this was for people that wanted to see a happy ending with Lily and Atlas, so it's not like you weren't warned kind of thing. And I went in knowing what it was going to be about, and I did really enjoy it. It wasn't anything crazy, but I did enjoy getting that ending. At the same time, the ending did feel really, really rushed. It just felt really like cut off, like the last sentence and I was like, oh, that's it, okay, cool. Yeah, but I did really enjoy how this was more an Atlas point of view. Hated the Ellen Diaries again. Atlas's letters were a little bit long, but other than that, it was a wholesome little book. Now, moving on to The Love Hypothesis. I gave this book 5 stars when I read it. I'm a little bit iffy about the 5 stars now, not because of the book itself, but I'm currently trying to read the other book she's released, which is Love on the Brain. Yeah, haven't gotten into that one. I will at some point, but I love The Love Hypothesis. It was just so refreshing to see a new form of romance, a romance plot being put into STEM. I guess that makes sense, because I haven't read any books that are where romance blossoms from working in STEM, so I really enjoyed that book. So I'm going to put it in Living, Laughing and Loving. Convenient Storewoman by Sayaka Murata, I want to pronounce. I probably butchered that, so I'm so sorry if I did. Regrets. That's going straight in regrets. I gave it 3 stars. I loved the protagonist. I did enjoy the protagonist, not loved, that's a strong word. I did enjoy the protagonist, but the style of writing just wasn't for me. It just really didn't have a necessary plot. Like, long story short, it just kind of felt like this woman was who was content with her life, but her family and friends were not content with her life, and so she was trying to change her life to make her friends and family content, but it made her not content. So yeah, it was just, I don't know, just something I wouldn't read again. The next book is Secrets of Midwives by Sally Hepworth. This was my first book of hers and I freaking ate it up. I loved it, gave it 5 stars. 3 generations of midwives, learning each person's story, them hiding all their secrets as the title says, and then learning about their secrets. I just freaking loved it. I couldn't recommend it more. That is going into You Are Perfect because it was, and yeah, couldn't put it down. The next book is Educated by Tara Westover. Another biography, so again, rating it on its writing style. 5 stars, perfect, phenomenal. Her life is just incredible. Yeah, I could not recommend the book more. If you haven't read it, it's about a woman who comes from a family with literally, she has no birth certificate. She has no evidence that she lives. There's no documentation of her anywhere. And so it follows her life and how she makes a name for herself. That's all I'm gonna say on it, because then I won't have anything to talk about in my wrap up. Then we have Verity by Colleen Hoover. I gave this book a 5 stars. I'm going to put it into living, laughing and loving because I didn't find it perfect. It's not my idea of a perfect book, but I still really enjoyed it. Oh my god, his wife pissed me off to no end. If you don't know what it's about an author who gets into a car accident and is paralyzed and can't talk. So the husband hires another author, the main protagonist, to finish writing the series that his wife started because they have a book publishing deal with a book publisher, obviously. So she goes to their house to work in the office to go through her scripts of the books and things like that to get an idea of her writing style and what she was planning to write next. She runs into the manuscript of the wife's biography and starts reading it, and it's really creepy and there's a lot of confessions and things like that in the book. I would recommend reading it if you're into a thriller. I'm weird with thrillers. I'm not a big fan of them, but I keep getting drawn to them. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. And the final book for this video is Made by Nita Prose. Phenomenal. I rated it 5 stars. I love the protagonist. She was so wholesome. I felt so bad for her at points in the book, and I cannot wait for her to bring out her next book. It was just so different. It's a murder mystery, but this woman is the epitome of loving, kind, thoughtful, do anything for anyone, no matter who they are, no matter what the cost. And it's just an incredible story, and I would recommend reading it. I'm gonna put that in perfect because it deserves to be there. So that's kind of my overview of the books I read for 2022. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different. I had a lot of fun filming it, so look forward to the wrap up where I go into a little bit more in depth of each book, because I know I did skim through it a little bit, but obviously if I talked about all of them for as much as I'd want to, I'd have nothing left for the next video. But I'm going to go now, and I will see you all for Vlogmas Day 10 tomorrow. Bye guys.